The little talk we're going to have now is possibly the most important part of this whole course. I must say I've seen many artists who have painted most of their life and they've failed because they haven't taken the time to study tones. That is the worst point I've seen. Perspective is another problem some people have, and arrangement, but the main thing is tones. But tones and perspective have a lot to do with arrangement. So we'll talk about arrangement first, then we'll talk about perspective, and then we'll talk about tones. And I've never used this before, but look, oh dear, that's amazing, and it's supposed to rub out. Oh, it does. Yes, it's okay. Maybe it works better with water. Arrangement. Here's your painting. Okay. Now, if I do that, the first thing a person does, they look in that direction. So if you have anything pointing out of your painting, it's going to attract the viewer's eye off the picture. So the first thing is lean things into the painting. Okay, we'll take that out of there. Everything leans in. The tree leans in, this tree leans in. And of course, your branches lean in. If you do have a branch that goes out of the painting, and you see how it attracts your eye out of the painting, well then you can correct it by bringing it in, or have something here that stops you from looking off the edge of the painting. So you're thinking about this all the time you're working, but if you make a mistake, you correct it by putting that something there that stops the eye travelling off the painting. Okay, so we've got this leaning in, this leaning in, this leaning in. We have a house here, and the house, there's the front door. The house is looking into the painting. You don't have the house looking out of the painting. You have a road. A road goes into the painting. Not going out of the painting in that direction. That's no good. The eye travels up the road and it's off the painting immediately. So everything goes into the painting. Now there's a few little tricks on here. You bring your fences into the painting, everything into the painting. Now if your eye comes onto a painting, the normal thing a person does, they look in this area here and their eye travels around the painting like that, and then it looks for something in the middle. So if you happen to be coming up here and there's nothing there, put a bird there. And then their eye pops onto the bird, then to the next tree or down onto the roof of the house. So you carry it around like this. And not only do you have your objects around like that, you have the light on the inside of everything. If you have a big tree here and the light's on the outside, the people will look at the outside of that tree. So you want the light on the inside of everything, on the inside, everything on the inside. That's just one trick. Let's see if this works. Oh, look at that, that's amazing, look at that. Okay, now, everything's facing into the picture. Right, we've got that. Another trick is you have the corners dark. Whatever's in the corners dark. Of course your grass is facing in, your grass is facing in. And this area here, you have something that's bright. Now it's easy to see that this works, because if you look at any old master and you dull your screen or you squint your eyes, you'll see a glow coming out of the middle. That is the trick. Everything is dark, everything is facing in, all the people are facing in, the main object is in the middle, and there's a light in the middle that is brighter than anything else on the painting. Most important. It's a simple thing, but you must do it if you want to sell your paintings. Now, another thing with your arrangement. There's a nice long painting, a good Australian scene. You're going to put a tree in it. So you want the people to look at the painting and keep looking at it. If you put the tree there, they don't know whether to look this side of the tree or that side of the tree. So you have to make up your mind where the tree goes. And a good place to put it is about there, because there's not enough room to have a good look there. So their eye will catch and pull into that direction. So the message is, don't put your trees too far into the picture, and don't put them too close to the edge. You don't want your tree right there. So you work out where your tree's going to go. You have a look, oh yeah, I want the tree there. Now if the tree has to start here for some reason, and you have to start there because you've got water there or something like that, well, lean it over in that direction so their eye will travel over in that direction. Okay, So the message there is, don't put items too close to the edge. Don't put things right in the middle unless there's a special point of that painting is something right in the middle. That might be the theme of the painting. But don't generally put your trees right near the edge, unless you've got a lot of trees that come up to the edge, that's okay. But one tree should be a good distance from the edge, but not too far out, because as I say, their eye will travel in there. Okay, now your mountains. Mountains like this, it's no good. Mountains could be pleasant shapes, hyperbolic curves, beautiful curves, okay? But not all the same, not 1, 2, 3, 4, not like that. So try and make your mountains a pleasant shape. With your water, if you're having water coming towards you, like that, okay, but be careful. You see that curve there? It makes it stand up in front of you. Your water is better shaped like this. Like that. A curve like that makes the water stand up in front of you. So try and keep your water like that. We'll get into that further when we're painting landscapes. If you're doing an arrangement of a desert type scene like the Australian outback, we've got a lot of sky out there. So keep your horizon line very low, and you can get a great effect of distance with that low horizon line. Also with your arrangements, I must mention, try not to do this, because that attracts the eye off the picture. Always try and have things coming into the picture like that, sloping in on the edge. Your mountains, bring a mountain in, and then you might have a mountain coming up and down like that, and then it drops off. If it drops off like that, we'll bring another mountain in, because we want the eye to be caught in there. With your clouds, don't do this. You don't have clouds like that. They become a feature, they become a not very attractive feature, and people keep looking at the clouds. Your clouds are subtle. They come here and they go there and they go there and they drift off, something like that. That's clouds. Clouds are not puffy balls all over the place. And remember, when we're painting clouds, you can always brush them and brush them and brush them until they go right back and you can hardly see them. So clouds must be right across your painting. Your cloud doesn't stop there and stop there because your painting stops there. Your cloud probably starts a mile in that direction or a mile in that direction and comes across the sky like that. The same with trees. Be careful. I've seen this over and over again. We'll have a great big tree here, beautiful tree, and the tree is shaped like this. Now, the tree's shaped like that because the board's shaped like that. The trees don't do that. Trees are this big. So you cut the top of the tree off. You don't shape the tree to suit the board. I see it over and over again, a branch coming out here and a tree, a branch there, and one coming up here and a branch there, and a bit coming up here and a branch there. It's no good. Okay, trees go out of the picture, they're all contained into the picture, but they're certainly not square because of the square of the corner. So what it is briefly, keep everything leaning into the picture, have a white glow coming out of the picture, have your items arranged in such a way that the eye travels from one item to the other. Don't leave a big space between an item and the side of the board with nothing there. Put your trees in from the edge at a reasonable distance so there's not a big space between the tree and the edge of the board. Have your water flowing off the picture and not at the bottom if possible. And if you know where the picture is going to hang, have the water flowing so it flows into the person's house, and they'll be rewarded with money, apparently. Okay, and then your clouds need to flow across your board, not powder puffs all over the place. They disappear out of the top of the painting, out of the side of the painting, and your mountains flow into the picture, not jagged mountains. Have them coming in on the edge of the picture. Don't dish anything over that doesn't need to be dished over, because it will attract the eye over the dish and down and off the painting. So dish anything in where possible. Now we'll have a little talk about perspective. With your perspective in your landscape painting, you do need to know just a bit about perspective so that your buildings are in perspective and things like your fences disappear away at the right angle and your roads get narrower as they go away from you and your rivers and your water gets narrow as it goes away from you. We're not going to talk about tones in perspective here, we're going to talk about the perspective drawing, the actual structure. So we'll have a look at a cottage. One thing is very important is the horizon line. The horizon line is the line where your eye is, the level. And why it's important to be level is that most buildings are built level. Most of them, the roof is square. Most of them are square. And also water is perfectly level. It finds its own level automatically. So what we call the horizon line is you're looking straight out level. So here's a house. Here we've got a bit of a farm or something. We'll build a house. There's a house like that. Okay. And my horizon line's there. So you've got trees and things here. Your eye would be about there. So that'd be your horizon line. Now if you paint your house with a roof like that, well, this is pointing up here. It's no good. Everything must point towards the horizon line. So let's rub that out. Okay. And so we had our house like that. Okay. That was our house, something like that. There's your horizon line again. The house has to point somewhere on that line. The roof has to be there, like that. Everything must point towards this horizon line. That's your eye level. Everything is level on top. It's not hard to look at a drawing and see if it's right or wrong. So first thing is, I see so many houses that are like this. It's no good. Everything must go towards the horizon line. So if you've got a building, and the building is up here like this, buildings, everything on those buildings must come towards that horizon line. They might not all have the same vanishing point. One building might be turned a bit and its vanishing point is different. But everything must slope down there. If it doesn't slope down there, it means they've built the house with a roof at an angle like that, instead of being flat or with the walls, they're like that. So if everything's level, now you can have a look at something like a picture of a house or anything, get something at a good angle, so you're standing on the corner and you're looking down the side of the house, say, and you can draw those horizon lines. You can get the photograph or the drawing and draw them all in, and you'll find that all the walls meet in the same point. Practice that and have a look. Now we'll have a quick look at how you draw things. If you've got a square or anything, rectangle, and you want to find the middle of it, you cross it. Okay, there's the middle. So if you've got a telegraph pole here, and you've got another telegraph pole here, and you want to put a telegraph pole in the middle on your drawing, and you want it to look in perspective, you mentally do that. And that point there is the middle between those two telegraph poles. They draw it in, and of course the top of it's there and the bottom of it's there. But the middle point is there. So if you've got a fence and it's coming towards you, okay, we've got a horizon line and we've got a fence, starts there and comes to a big post here. There's a fence along the road, there's a road. You want to draw the middle of the fence? There it is. You want to draw the post between that? There it is. The post between that? There it is, etc, etc, etc. You try it. You draw the cross and that finds the centre. Now with fences and things, we're running out of board. I'll clean this bit off. If you've got your horizon line there, which is supposed to be my eye level, okay, and you've got a fence coming towards you, and the fence is below the horizon line, the fence post comes to here. It doesn't matter if it's above the horizon line or below the horizon line. The telegraph poles might be above, they might be here, but the fence is lower. You still do your crosses and that slopes down. Another problem people have, they paint their water, so you've got a creek coming towards you, and the creek will come towards you like this, and it'll come towards you like this. It looks like it's standing up. It can't be like that. If the creek is 20 foot wide there, it'd have to be 3 mile wide up here somewhere. It's just not right. So all your things that are coming towards you, your roads, your tracks and everything, have to come towards you like that. They have to get bigger all the way as they come towards you. You can't have a bush track that weaves its way towards you like this, okay, and then it comes like this, and then like that. What's going on here? Look, it's too narrow there. You have to think about this, okay, and it not only was too narrow there, it's too narrow everything. If a bush track was coming towards you like that, it'd have to come bigger all the way. Well, you might not have understood all that, but take your time and look around and see how things do get smaller when they're far away and get bigger when they're near you. You can find some photographs and draw them up so you extend the construction lines and find the horizon line and see where your eye level is on different scenes. Notice how if you're in a big crowd, say at a market or something like that, you'll see that all the heads are basically at the same height. They're not all up and down. And everything at that height is your eye level. So think about it, have a look and just see how things are big when they're near you and very small when they're away. And you can measure with a ruler just how big and small things are. This next video is one I made some years ago, and it looks at perspective, and we have a very good look at perspective. So this might help you again. And also this video goes into tones of colour, which has a lot to do with perspective. This exercise is to help you with your perspective drawing in regards to painting landscapes. We'll start with a simple exercise, a horizon line. The horizon line is your eye level. It doesn't matter where you're standing, the horizon line is your eye level. Anything coming towards you from the horizon line above your eye level appears to be up. Anything coming towards you from the horizon line below your eye level appears to be down. To find the middle of anything, it's a good idea to draw diagonals. We'll draw diagonals on our sheet, and that'll show us the middle of the sheet. We'll draw a road in. This is an imaginary road. And on the side of the road, we have a big telegraph pole. And way in the distance, there's a little telegraph pole. Now we'll use diagonals to work out where the middle telegraph pole goes. Does it go there, or does it go down there? Well, the right way to do it is to draw the diagonals from the near telegraph pole to the far telegraph pole, one on the top and one on the bottom. And where they cross, that will give us the exact position of the middle telegraph pole. But it doesn't give us the height. We need to draw a line along the top of the telegraph poles to determine the height. My telegraph pole is too high, so we'll chop the top off and put it in place. There's my telegraph pole, right in the middle between the two telegraph poles. The intermediate telegraph poles between them can easily be found by drawing the diagonals and the top and bottom line and putting them in place. And there's our telegraph poles, all neatly drawn in perspective. On the other side of the road I wish to put a fence, so I'll put my little fence post in the distance. I want to see over this fence, so the line that represents the top of the posts will be below the horizon line. The post near us is taller than the post in the distance. We can draw the diagonals in and find the intermediate fence posts, and by continuing to draw the diagonals and put the poles in, we can put all the poles spaced at the right distance so they look as if they are in perspective. except the big pole nearest should be thicker because it's closer to us. So we'll draw it thicker, we'll draw the sides of the road thicker and the telegraph pole thicker, and there they are, all in perspective. Drawing buildings in perspective. We'll start with the horizontal line, which is the horizon line, the same as in our telegraph pole drawings. The horizon line is your eye level, and there's a road coming towards us and a road going away. We're standing on the corner looking to where we're going to put our building. We start with an upright pole. That represents the nearest corner to us, and at the pole we'll put our model to give us an idea of how high we should draw that pole. I'd say it should be well above her head, and the top of the pole should be the right height. From there we can draw construction lines in both directions to the vanishing points to represent the front and side walls of the building. That's exactly where the walls will be and the way they will sweep away from us. The length of the walls is imaginary. We can put in the length of our walls where we wish. We'll colour the walls in, and that's our front and side wall. We need to put a door in the middle of the front wall. So to find the middle, we draw our diagonals, put in an upright, and that's the centre line of the door. The height of the door can be determined by putting our model on the wall line, and the height above her head, the construction line from the vanishing point to a point well above her head, will give us clearance for her to walk through the door. So that's the position of the top of the door, and we can easily draw in the sides of the door and colour it in, and that's our front door. And we want to put windows each side of the front door. So if we draw in our diagonals, so we can find the middle of the panels each side of the door, and our uprights are the centre lines of the windows. The height of the window can be the same height as the top of the door. The windowsill, the bottom of the window, should be about the waistline of the model, so we can draw a construction line in there, and that will give us the windowsill line. You'll notice that line runs downhill from the vanishing point. That is the windowsill height. Then we can draw in our windows, and that's our front windows. The side wall, to put a door in there, what we need to do is draw the diagonals in the side wall. Then the upright, which is the centre line of the door, and a line from the vanishing point to the point well above the model's head will give us the top of the door. And from that we can sketch the door in, and that's our door. We can have our roof as high as we wish. We can make it up, but the roof really does need to be in the middle. So we'll put a line up the middle, that's our centre line, and draw our gable in at a reasonable height, and that's our gable. From the vanishing point we can draw construction lines through the gable and project our roof forward, and that will give us the eaves. Then we can colour them in, and a few lines here and there on the house, and there's our house, all finished in perspective. If the house was well down the street, we'd be able to see the top of the roof. Our house is too close to see the top of the roof. There's the construction lines of the house further down the street where we can see the top of the roof. We still use the same vanishing points. Even if we've got a big tall house, we still use those same construction lines. So anything on these streets, the construction lines will vanish to the same vanishing points. So remember that, and keep an eye on things. Have a look at your paintings and see if everything is in place. You can have a look at your paintings to see by putting construction lines on your paintings, just imaginary ones if you wish. We'll have a look at my picture. There's two construction lines, one on the top of the roof, one on the gutter. They join, but they don't join on what appears to be the horizon line. The horizon line is about the windowsill height, and they don't join on that line. They join well above it, so my roof is slightly out of perspective. On the front wall of the building, we'll have a look there to see if my gable's in place. No, my gable is slightly out of perspective. It's not in the middle of the wall. And my front wall, see if it's in perspective. It seems to slope away at the right angle, so possibly the front wall of the building is sloping away to the horizon line, and it could be pretty well in perspective. Now when you're out and about, have a look at things and see if you can spot the horizon lines and the vanishing points.
and see how things disappear in the distance. This set of shelves in a shopping centre. I'll blank the back wall out so you can see. All the shelves line up and disappear to the same spot. They're all aiming at that vanishing point, and they all go to the same spot. And there's your horizon line. Just look along buildings and things and see if you can spot it. But when you look at your paintings, it makes it easier to spot the difference between in perspective and not in perspective. Now we'll have a look at perspective regarding colours and tones in your Australian landscape painting. We use very bright colours in Australian landscapes. This painting is in tones of grey, from dark tone to light tone, very pale tone in the distance and very dark tones in the foreground. If it was a coloured painting, we'd still use the same system, very pale tones in the distance and very dark tones in the foreground. With your skies, keep your sky very dark above your head, and as it moves into the background, down to the horizon line, keep it very pale. You can even have it white on the horizon line. The sky from blue to white gives you very good perspective. Keep your top corners nice and dark. This will give you good perspective also. With your foreground, keep the ground level at your feet very dark and have the foreground fade into very pale shades as it disappears into the distance. Your mountains are pale. The distant mountain will be the palest mountain, and as it comes towards you, they gain colour and get darker, but they must not get too dark. Keep them pale and in the distance. They're usually blue, all shades of blue. Your trees can be green in the foreground. You can have green leaves on the foreground trees, but they don't take long before they fade into a faded colour in the distance. You'll see the difference. Very faded green in the distance, and that green is a grey green. It's usually mixed with raw sienna, a little bit of green, a little bit of grey and white. So for your background yellows, use raw sienna in your clouds, mountains and in your trees. Red is a foreground colour. Don't use red in the background. Red can be used on your trees or anywhere in the foreground. If you need red in the background, use a faded shade of crimson. Brown is also a foreground colour. Never use brown in your background. So keep your corners dark and keep your background very bright, and then you'll have good perspective. Sometimes we use white in the foreground, lots of white. As long as you have plenty of darks to compensate, you'll get away with it, such as this gum tree here. Keep the darks in the foreground. Now and then you may need to use a little bit of dark in the background, such as the twig in the distant water here. That's okay because it's just a little bit of dark, but not very often do you have to do that. So keep your foregrounds dark and your backgrounds bright, and you'll be able to paint pictures with great perspective.
Now we'll have a talk about tones. Tones can be very confusing, but I've simplified it. I simplified it down to, let's just think about three colours: red, blue and yellow. And by the way, many times when I'm looking at crimson, I call it red, or burnt sienna, I call it red, because they're the reds in our landscape. Often a yellow will be yellow, I call raw sienna yellow also, because that's the yellows in our landscape. And the blues are all blue. Now, let's kid we're making a landscape. There's some little trees. We'll have some mountains. We'll have some lovely mountains. There's the mountains. Okay. And here we are. There's our eye level. Not that it matters. And here we are standing here, and we're big. Okay, that's us. Okay. Now, between there and us, there's a lot of air. And as the colours go through the air and they get to here or here or here, right down here, say, they all mute into the same colour here. And on a normal day, that colour can't be anything but grey. because red and blue and yellow mixed together make grey. It might be a brown grey or a red grey or a blue grey or a green grey or a purple grey, but it is grey, and that's the colour there. Often it looks very blue. So here we have a bright red, we have a bright blue and a bright yellow. When they get there, they're all grey. So when you get halfway between here and there, they can't still be this bright red. They are red grey, blue grey and yellow grey. They are not the same colour as what's here. If you want to paint your landscape successfully, you must not put this colour halfway between you and the mountains. That's all there is to it. If you want to paint successful landscapes, you exaggerate the perspective and you exaggerate the tones to make things look further away. So the more colour, the more red or the more green or the more yellow you add to this middle colour, you are lessening the perspective or the three-dimensional look of your painting. So try and find a happy medium where it doesn't look too pale and it doesn't look too bright, but it looks just right. Now, here is a bright green leaf right in front of you. These colours are bright green when they're right in front of your face. When they move away from you, they'll end up the same colour as down here. They'll end up grey, blue, very pale, possibly the same colour as the sky. When they're halfway, they're not green anymore. So we might use a green up here that holds a lot of this colour, but down here it holds just a little tiny bit. It fades very quickly. When it's close to you, it's very green. Okay, that's obvious. When it gets to there, it's not so green. That's halfway between you and the mountains. When it gets to the mountains, it's pale grey, or it's the same blue as the sky. When it's here, when it's close to you, it's reflecting all the lights. The lights, there might be a yellow flower next to here. This leaf will also have yellow in it because the light's reflected onto here. But when it gets down to here, halfway between you and the mountain, all those reflected lights are gone. It's just one dull, boring colour, and that's it. The colour can change. Okay, so it should be obvious now to you that dark greens are here, pale greys are here, and a grey there with a little bit of the dark green is halfway between you and the mountain. It goes away from you like that. Now there's other things involved. There's different times of day, morning, noon and night. Often people say ultramarine blue in the morning, cobalt blue in the middle of the day and Prussian blue at night. Okay, that's a good enough rule. In the middle of the day you've got cadmium yellow, cadmium red, and at night time you might have lemon yellow and crimson, and in the morning you might have vermilion, which is almost orange, and chrome yellow or something like that anyway. But the thing is, when you're mixing your colours between here and there, you should use all the same colours. If this comes through here and you've got a bit of a red day, you've got a bit of a red colour here and the red coming through here, and there's a bit of a red here, you don't pick up a purple and paint your trees here unless you're painting ornamental pictures. If you're painting ornamental pictures, you can put whatever you like in them. But if you want to paint landscapes properly, you need to use what is called a limited palette. And the limited palette is, you make your mind up what colour it's going to be, cobalt blue, Prussian blue or ultramarine blue, and you use those colours right through your painting. So if you use viridian green, you use this green here, you do need a tint of it right back here near the mountains. It's no good just stopping the viridian green there. You do need it right through everything as it comes towards you, as the trees come towards you. You need these tones, so the whole picture has the same tone all the way through it. You can't stop halfway and have a different tone there. I know we do it all the time, it looks terrific, but it's not the way to do it. Okay, you've got a cobalt blue day use cobalt blue right through to here. You can use phthalo blue in your sky because phthalo blue and cobalt blue are so much similar it doesn't make any difference. So we work on what is called a limited palette. And the limited palette will have your red, your blue, your yellow. You put them together and you need a colour like the soil. And of course if there's a purple tree there you might need some purple to go in there. But your tones all made out of those colours right through your painting. When we get to here, you need to get your yellow down to a very musty looking grey yellow. That's why we use raw sienna. It's so much easier. So burnt sienna for the ground at your feed, raw sienna for the yellow when it gets that far, and all the other colours are the same. And viridian green it is for these. Okay.